As most of us know here at Evolution 2021, the evolutionary and ecological sciences prepare students for careers in many areas of central importance to society. Nevertheless, the evolutionary and ecological sciences are one of the least diverse areas of study in terms of degree completion and career participation. Understanding the barriers to race, gender, and socioeconomically based success and eliminating them early and throughout academic pathways could help to maintain and foster a diverse talent pool for evolution degrees and careers. Fundamentally, evidence is needed to inform the modification of institutional structures that serve as barriers to participation in ecology and evolution careers. That is, the actions we take should be supported by robust empirical methods, multiple sources of evidence that are aligned with epistemic aims, and anchored in appropriate theoretical frameworks. Specifically, in our study, we used two theoretical frameworks to guide our work: critical race theory and cumulative disadvantage theory. These frameworks guided the identification of constructs of relevance, which in turn guided the selection of validated tools for measuring these constructs. And these measures were used to develop evidence-based claims which motivated the development of actions to target institutional change. Our first research question focused on which student variables may be salient to E&E learning and career outcomes, and what patterns exist in our student population. Secondly, how might salient variables be used to identify and dismantle inequitable practices in degree pathways? In this study, introductory biology. And lastly, do evidence-informed modifications intended to reduce barriers positively impact minoritized students? For research question 1, we used the instruments and measures indicated on this table. Key constructs included knowledge, acceptance, religiosity, conflict about evolution, identity compatibility, family reactions, and degree pursuit. In our institutional context, we conducted a longitudinal study of 1,945 STEM majors enrolled in Gateway Biology. This course is a prerequisite to further study in biology, and it's the first course that focuses on evolution. On to our first research question. For evolution understanding at entry, we found that white students at our institution have had stronger evolution preparation. White students arrive in the biology program with significantly higher knowledge, fewer misconceptions, and greater reasoning abstraction about evolution. Minoritized students, on average, arrive at a disadvantage: less knowledge, more misconceptions, and less reasoning abstraction. In terms of conflict with evolution, we again see that white students arrive in the biology program with significantly less personal, familial, and community conflict with evolution. Minoritized students arrive at a disadvantage. There are barriers to learning that are not as prevalent in white students. In terms of identity compatibility and race-gender, we again see that white students arrive in the biology program with significantly greater racial compatibility with evolutionary ideas. Again, engaging with evolutionary ideas is viewed as less compatible for some minoritized groups, introducing a barrier. In terms of evolution acceptance, analyzed at 3 scales, micro, macro, and human evolution, we see that white students have significantly higher acceptance of microevolution, macroevolution, and human evolution, and acceptance therefore becomes another barrier that must be navigated for many minoritized students, but not by many white students. In terms of careers and degrees, we see that white and Hispanic students anticipate more positive family reactions or responses to announcing that they would be pursuing a career in evolutionary biology. White and Hispanic students also are more likely to pursue a degree that involves evolutionary biology. Again, significant disparities characterize students in terms of parental reactions and likelihood of pursuing evolution. After gathering background variables, we then looked at our curriculum. We utilized two theoretical frameworks, cumulative disadvantage theory and critical race theory, which we don't have time to get into, but they were very useful for examining our curriculum in a new light. We use this analysis to align barriers and critiques and modify the curriculum. We don't have time to discuss all of the changes we made, but many of them are focused on the topics listed here. The critique that we performed was used to conduct a variety of course modifications. Research question 3 then was an analysis to determine whether any of these changes had a positive impact. On to findings. Using the CANS instrument, we found that both course iterations, that is the traditional and intervention course, produced improvements in evolution knowledge, but not in all cases. Using the ACORNS instrument, both iterations, traditional and intervention, produced significant improvements in evolutionary reasoning for all groups. Examining personal conflict with evolution, we found that using the SECOM instrument, the intervention semesters produced a larger reduction in personal conflict with evolution than the traditional semesters. These marginal effect plots show the mean predicted pre-post magnitudes of conflict with evolution for the intervention versus traditional semesters. It's another way of looking at the data. For Black and Hispanic students, the intervention course showed a significantly steeper decline in personal conflict than the traditional course. There was a negative pre-post trend for family evolutionary conflict, but it was not significant. So here we see positive trends. For Black and Hispanic students, the pre-post change in macroevolution acceptance did not differ based on the type of instruction, although, as is apparent, there were positive trends in both cases. The same pattern was observed for human evolution acceptance, positive trends in both cases. So to summarize some of the major findings, significant and meaningful inequities in many of the variables salient to evolution were documented across student groups when they began the program. White students arrived with substantial advantages over minoritized groups in most cases. Interrogation of the curriculum using these documented inequities led to the development and implementation of a series of course modifications. Evaluation of the impact of course reforms led in some cases to meaningful improvements above and beyond existing reforms. There are some considerations that should be kept in mind about these conclusions. The first is that the intervention semesters took place during the pandemic, and we need to test whether these findings will be able to be replicated under more typical circumstances. Second, the amount of class time that was added was actually quite small, only about 1 hour. Other changes were integrated throughout the course, but the dosage effects of these changes was actually relatively small. It's entirely possible and likely that greater dosage could lead to larger effects. This was our first iteration. In addition, the traditional course is not very traditional. There's many active learning and collaborative exercises that occur throughout the course. So the broader implications of our work is that all of us in the community need to better understand our students and some of the differences among students that exist. Second, we need to use the information about our students to actually interrogate the courses that we teach and try to address these barriers. And lastly, we need to critically evaluate whether our actions are amplifying or reducing inequities. Finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Thank you.